for Gembrook.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and I rise to support the Leader of Opposition Business in our position of opposing the Leader of Government's motion put forward before the House to change the hours, to reduce the hours we're in this Parliament, and exactly as the Leader of the Opposition has just said just then, because it is around the most important time when we need to be here as a voice for our communities and raising the issues that they're raising within that community. And I'll take up the interjection from the member from Mordialloc who said I should be out in my community. Well, my community at the moment is asking me, when you've got places like Robert Gordon Pottery who are stressed about 40 staff keeping their jobs, they want me to come back and ask the government, where is the state stimulus package? What is the state doing to ensure they're protected? They treat their staff like family. They want to make sure they're protected for the future. And we've seen events cancelled, we've seen things change, and we've seen how dynamic this is. And Speaker, on many occasions, I think I'd speak on behalf of all on this side of the House, we are more than happy to work with the government to make sure it is in the best interests of Victorians at a time of genuine need. And when you travel around through the electorate at the moment, there is concern. They are raising concerns. I know the member for Polwarth raised a genuine concern before around people coming out to country areas in busloads and taking food from shelves, and that needs to be raised in this place. The government to turn around and say that we're going to reduce, cut out and stop things that happen in Parliament, or change this amendment to say that we can put it in writing, we've seen the example of what happens when you put things in writing within this Parliament. The government failed to answer. I raised 2 weeks ago 108 questions on notice that had failed to be answered by this government. I again raised an issue this week with 70 questions on notice where the answers are totally and factually incorrect. That's why we need to make sure that Parliament remains. That's why we should be here. The Chief Health Officer, and I've heard many on the other side interject about the Chief Health Officer. The Chief Health Officer has stated that basically you can stay in Parliament, that the Parliament is exempt and should continue to run. I would actually say not just should continue to run, it is vital it continues to run as it has for the past 12 months, 20 years, 50 years, go back to when it obviously started over all those years ago. The one thing we have had change here in Victoria, one thing we have had change here in Victoria is the reduction in the amount of days. And the Leader of the Opposition went into those days to say that it went down to 44 days and back up to 46. Well, the one thing I will say to the Leader of the Opposition is the Labor Party are the only party that turn around and say that's a 5% increase, rather than focusing on the history and actually saying it's a 10% decrease on what has been happening within democracy in Victoria, how they continue to try and curtail debate and make sure that we can't speak. And Speaker, one of the reasons that we do need to be in this chamber is to raise really important issues that happen out in our electorate. And a prime example at the moment would be the Millhaven Lodge Retirement Village. A place of care, a place where people are obviously more vulnerable, more susceptible to what's happening with the current virus and also with food issues. And when you get a Member of Parliament who puts a post out on social media saying no food in aged care facility in Pakenham, and then going on to blame the federal government and the local member, and was so embarrassed by this post had to take it down. We're trying to talk about bipartisan. A simple phone call from the member for Bass wouldn't have hurt to actually go there. And it's funny because when we speak to them at the Millhaven Lodge, they actually turn around and go, no, we weren't short of food. We had one delivery not turn up, one delivery. What message is out in the community when a member of government is putting a message out there saying no food in aged care facility in Pakenham? No food. Speaker, I'd put it to you, if your mother or father was in that village or in that care nursing home and a member of the government is putting a message out saying there's no food available in that facility, that needs to be raised in this place. That person has to be called out. It is a disgrace that someone wants to go out there and scaremonger from the government and trying to blame the Morrison government and trying to blame the feds. And we need to raise that in here. And I'll give credit. I know that the Premier has been going up and working with the government federally, and they are trying to do things to put in place that are genuinely in the best interest of Victoria and Australia. They're trying to make changes that are uncomfortable. And any leader has to make decisions that are uncomfortable. But many of those decisions over time may require a change in legislation. And you'd think the best place to discuss them with the opposition would be in the Parliament, so we can then be aware of what is going on. I was elected into this place in exactly the same grounds as the member for Mordialloc. I had more than 50% of my electorate who supported me to come in here to be their voice. And the member for Mordialloc should agree with me. This is the place that I'm going to stand up for them. This is the place that I'm going to come in and make sure that their voice is heard. And at a time when they have genuine concern in their community, I need to come in here and ensure that I can go through to the ministers, I can go through to the government and ask questions. But we know the reality. I could show you the email list. I could show you the FOIs I've put in, of which we failed to get answers back. This government sent an FOI response to the opposition of over 200 pages that was all blanked out. They wouldn't even give us the information in relation to projects at the time. They will not supply the information to us. We're getting a briefing today from the Chief Medical Officer or the Deputy Chief Medical Officer. Other information comes out sporadically and we can't get answers that we need to get. Question time today. In question time yesterday as well. The Liberal Party didn't get up with the National Party and absolutely have a go at the government. We got up and asked specific questions. And I know the member for Burwood wants to interject from there. I don't even think you're entitled to be in the front row, let alone your seat over there, so I wouldn't start interjecting from where you're sitting. But I will say, when we're talking about it, it is entitled that we can come in here and speak on behalf of our people, speak on behalf of those that have been elected. We've come in here to make sure that those concerns are raised. And I have had continuous issues. I've had continuous issues raised when it comes around schools. And one of the areas where parents are concerned, and rightfully concerned, of the government are reducing the amount of people that can be in enclosed spaces to 100 people, etc., etc. And I do understand, and we've said by bipartisan support, currently government schools will be staying open. But the concern out in the community when you walk down the street and speak to people is, well, hold on, independent and private schools are starting to make announcements around closing, and some of them where they haven't had a case of the virus at all within the school. They haven't had the coronavirus in the school, but they are making those decisions. And they're making those decisions based on what they think is in the best interest of their students. They're making those interests in the best interest of what they think for the families, and they're making it in what is the best interest for their staff. And they're doing it for the right reasons. But I'm not condoning the fact that, I'm not saying whether they should or shouldn't close. That is a decision for independent schools. But we need to be able to come in here to ensure that we can get the right advice to go back to state schools, to go back to the parents who are asking the questions, why are some of those areas doing it deciding to close and others not? And then we can say that we can go to the department. And I'd put it to you, Speaker, and I'm happy to show the emails in this place over time where I've gone to the department, including, we'll use the emergency services, where I've just sent an email just recently to the Chief of the Emergency Services, whose standard response is, I'm sorry, Mr. Battin, we can't deal with you. You'll have to go through the Minister's office. Or when we've written to the Education Department locally in Dandenong and the response is, I'm sorry, we're told we can't deal with you. You'll have to go through the Minister's office. So therefore, if we're not getting the information from the department, we have to come in here and confront the Minister, because the Minister is elected and paid to be in charge and deliver that. And that's all we're asking. We're not asking much on this side of the parliament. We're not asking for anything that's outstanding, anything over the top. We're just asking for a parliament that operates, that gives us opportunity to question the government. A parliament is here to question the government. On behalf of the members, on behalf of the electorate of Gembrook, as businesses start to struggle, as we see a change through our schools, as people are concerned about catching a train, with the photo this morning at the train station in Flinders Street at 7:30 a.m. They want to make sure that their leaders are leading. They want to make sure that the leaders continue to do what they should be doing. And my role as an elected representative of Gembrook is to make sure I come in here, number one, get information they need, ensure I get that information back out to them in any way possible, using social media, going through the media, working with the government where appropriate to make sure that they are protected and their interests are the only thing that I'm putting forward. And Speaker, that's what we're asking for today. This motion is going to cut off the voice from those in the electorate of Gembrook and the electorates of everyone else in this place, and anyone who is not within government, any backbencher, whether you are a Labor backbencher, a Liberal backbencher, Nationals or Greens, they will all be cut off from making sure they have a voice and making sure they get treated equally, so every area is treated and they can govern for all. And I implore the government to listen to the Greens member today and some of the things that he wanted to put in place that would make this place operate smoothly and in the betterment for all Victorians. And that is why I oppose this motion put before the House.